This is part 2 of episode 119 of Vlog Driver, where I talk about the things that I didn't like about the new Harry Potter movie. If you only want to hear about the things that I liked about the new Harry Potter movie, then watch part 1 of this episode. Otherwise, watch on. I'm not going to list all of the little things that I had problems with in this movie, because then this will kind of devolve into another argument about canon and books versus movies and that sort of thing. So instead, what I'm going to talk about in this part of the episode are the 3 major fundamental flaws in Steve Kloves' writing that came through in this movie. And yes, this review is going to be fairly Steve Kloves-centric. It's not going to criticize much of anything else except for the screenwriting. I'm sorry, it's really the only thing that I had a problem with in this movie. The first flaw I've talked about before, characterization. The old Steve Kloves characters are back in this film. Sidekick Ron, Super Hermione, comic relief Neville, interchangeable Fred and George. And it's not simply that these characters are unlike the characters in the book, it's just that these characters are so shallow and two-dimensional. They're not well developed, they have no nuance. And they certainly don't set up the character development, the major character development that happens for pretty much all of these characters in book 7. Neville does not look to me in this movie like the guy who's going to lead the resistance in the next one. And as most of you know, one of my major irritations with Steve Kloves' writing is how he portrays Ron. And his attitude towards Ron is exemplified in the last scene of the movie, where Hermione is the one saying, "We're right with you, Harry, we're going to stand by you, we're going to help you destroy the Horcruxes," and Ron just sits there. He is very obviously not a part of the group. As a matter of fact, Steve Kloves' attitude towards Ron is very similar to Slughorn's. You know, he's just that funny redheaded kid that stands near the shining lights that are Harry Potter and Hermione Granger. Second thing, Steve Kloves has yet to master the art of multiple subplots. If you've read J.K. Rowling's books, then you know that one of the great things about her writing is that her plots are incredibly intricate, especially in the latter half of the series. At the same time as the main plot is going on, you also have this thing going on with Draco, you have stuff going on with the Ministry, you have Voldemort's campaign taking over. In addition, you've got the fluffy stuff like classes and Quidditch and the Harry-Ginny romance. All that stuff is going on at once, and it all comes to a conclusion at about the same time. Right up until about the last half hour of the movie, he was doing really, really well weaving all of these different subplots in. And then in the last half hour, he just kind of dropped it all. It's like he forgot that those things had been set up. And so that's one of the reasons why I think the ending seems so anticlimactic, because he introduced these things but then never resolved them. And then the last thing is something that I've also mentioned before, which is that Steve Kloves is not good at writing for a series. First of all, he doesn't really refer back to anything that happened in the previous movie. There's no indication that Harry went through this huge traumatic fight in movie 5 where he lost his godfather. So it's like that whole thing never really happened because there's nothing connecting back to it. In addition, there's nothing to set up the next movie, which is this huge climactic concluding chapter in this saga. The ending was anticlimactic. There's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of, oh, we have to do things because our leader has fallen at the hands of somebody that he trusted. I don't feel like this was the penultimate chapter in this series. And the problem is that Steve Kloves tried to make the ending too neat. He tried to put too much closure on it. Book 6 does not end neatly, and neither should movie 6. And so those are my major criticisms on the movie. If you would like to hear about the things I liked about the movie, then go watch part 1 of episode 119. Otherwise, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.